Under the cloak of night, a solitary figure edges toward a colossal cargo plane. This isn't your typical airport employee working the graveyard shift. This is a young boy driven by a potent mix of desperation and resolve. His name is Dave Martins, and tonight he's on the brink of doing something truly astonishing. A young kid, armed with nothing more than the clothes on his back, deftly dodging security checkpoints, weaving through the maze of the tarmac, and finally hoisting himself into the cramped icy confines of a plane's wheel. Well, why take such a risk? For a shot at a new life, a flight not just from his homeland, but from a life marred by poverty and bleak prospects. Dave comes from the colorful yet chaotic streets of Colombia. In a place where each day is a battle for survival, Dave learned quickly that the world doesn't hand out favors. His existence was a constant test of his endurance and wits, shaped by the brutal realities that surrounded him and so many others. But what pushes someone to push the very boundaries of their destiny? Today I'm going to take you deep into the life of Dave Martins, a young man who became a master of deception, not merely to survive but to entirely reshape his reality. This is a story of shrewdness, bravery, and the intricate dance between moral decisions and survival. Come along as I peel back the layers of Dave's incredible story, showing how sometimes the veils of deceit can lead to paths illuminated by ambition and a desperate quest for transformation. This tale isn't just about surviving, it's about how changing our fate is often hidden beneath the guise of deceit. Dave was born into the vibrant yet tumultuous world of Colombia, a land where the bright tapestry of cultural richness contrasted sharply with the dark threads of civil strife. His childhood unfolded in a realm of stark contrasts. Streets pulsing with music and bustling markets existed alongside narrow alleys, echoing with the sounds of poverty and desperation. In these lively yet challenging streets, Dave's early years were spent under the shadow of towering high-rises, a constant visual reminder of the vast disparities that plagued his community. From a young age, life taught him tough lessons in survival, where the currency was hustle and resilience was the only shield against the harsh realities. The spirit of resilience flowed strongly in Dave, a gift from a community that, despite being perennially under the heel of adversity, never seemed to break. Yet, resilience could not sate the hunger, nor quench the thirst for a safer, more stable life. For Dave and many like him, the dream of escape glowed brightly on the horizon, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. As he edged into his teenage years, the boundaries of his world seemed to close in tighter, making the tales of the American dream, stories of opportunities and prosperity far beyond the reach of Colombian turmoil, all the more alluring. The turning point came when one of Dave's close friends made it to Miami and sent back stories brimming with promise and potential. These stories lit a fire within Dave, sparking a fierce determination to chase his own version of the American dream. At just 15, armed with little more than a backpack and a heart overflowing with hope, Dave decided on his most audacious plan yet: to stow away to America. One quiet night, fueled by tales of daring stowaways and their quests for better lives, Dave slipped away from his home. Each step he took towards the airport was heavy with not just his own dreams, but also the silent prayers of those he left behind, those who remained ensnared in the grip of hardship. This act, his first venture into the world of deceit, was driven not by greed but by sheer desperation, a gamble for a chance at a new beginning. As Dave tucked himself into the cold, cramped space of the cargo plane's wheel well, he wasn't merely fleeing Colombia. He was propelling himself towards a new, uncertain destiny filled with promise, a stark leap into the unknown that held the faint, flickering hope of a better life. Under the veil of night, Dave Martins crept towards the sprawling landscape of the airport, a silent figure against the hum of activity. His heart thundered with each calculated step. Even in the dead of night, the airport was a bustling hub of life and noise, with planes thundering awake and ground crews masterfully navigating the choreography of logistics. With a deep breath, Dave reminded himself that this was his only chance. He observed, biding his time, then moved with a precision that belied his youth. He found a gap in the fence and made his way through, weaving between shadows, dodging the sweeping beams of airport lights. His goal was clear: a cargo plane destined for Miami, which held the promise of a new beginning in its steel belly. As the ground crew made their final rounds, Dave found his opportunity. With the agility of a street cat, he scaled into the gaping wheel well of the plane, his body shaking not just from the bitter cold, but also from a profound fear of the unknown that lay ahead. The plane's engines roared to life, and as it lifted off, Dave's body was pressed into the cold metal by the force of the ascent. The noise was overwhelming, the space around him oppressively tight. Above him stretched thousands of miles of open sky, below him the fading lights of his homeland, shrinking into the darkness. Hours later, after enduring an agonizing journey of freezing temperatures and relentless noise, the plane finally touched down in Miami. Numb and disoriented, Dave struggled to extricate himself from his cramped refuge. He collapsed onto the tarmac, a lone figure in a vast, unfamiliar world. As dawn broke, casting long shadows over the runway, Dave was discovered by an airport worker. In a weak, hoarse whisper, he delivered the story he had rehearsed countless times. He introduced himself as Guo, a 13-year-old orphan from Colombia, seeking refuge in America from unimaginable hardships. His story struck a chord, resonating with deep empathy from the airport staff and later capturing the hearts of the media. This fabricated identity, born out of desperation, opened the door to his new life in America, setting the stage for a journey fraught with deceit and desperate measures. As Dave walked away from the airport, his heart was a tumult of relief and apprehension. Though he was relieved to have survived the perilous journey, he was acutely aware of the web of lies he had spun around himself. Yet despite the uncertainty and the moral complexity of his actions, one thing was undeniably clear: there was no going back. Dave Martins had stepped into a new life, one that was as fraught with danger as it was ripe with possibility. Dave Martins stepped into a vivid new reality, a stark contrast to the somber shadows of his past. The sun-drenched avenues of Miami stretched before him like ribbons of opportunity, each corner a promise of possibilities he had only dared to dream about. In America, the very air seemed imbued with the prospect of a fresh start. Adapting quickly, Dave absorbed the rhythms and nuances of his new surroundings. He threw himself into learning the culture and mastering the language with a zeal that masked his inner turmoil. As Guo, he found a community ready to embrace him, their sympathy and support forming the stepping stones he needed to forge ahead. During one radiant Miami afternoon, fate steered Dave into the path of Officer Magnus. Known in his community for his empathy and unwavering dedication, Officer Magnus recognized a familiar resilience in Dave, a mirror to his own youthful battles. Compelled by Dave's harrowing tale of survival, he offered him a new home and a chance at family. Life under Officer Magnus's roof was unlike anything Dave had ever known. He was welcomed into a middle-class American life, filled with comforts previously unimaginable to him: his own room, regular meals, and a sense of security that felt both exhilarating and alien. Yet, despite the warmth of his new environment, a chill of guilt lingered beneath the surface. The foundation of lies upon which he'd built his new existence was as constricting as it was fragile. But cracks in Dave's carefully constructed identity began to show. Requests for documents he couldn't produce, inconsistencies in the stories of his past, and the suspicious glances of locals who whispered behind closed doors. The pressure built each day, shadowing his newfound joy with the threat of discovery. The facade shattered one crisp autumn morning when a well-meaning teacher, attempting to help Dave solidify his legal status, reached out to Colombian authorities. The response she received unraveled the fabric of his new life. There was no Guo. There was only Dave Martins, not an orphan as he had claimed but a runaway wrapped in deceit. When confronted with the unraveling of his lies, the walls of the world Dave had so meticulously built crumbled around him. Officer Magnus, though heartbroken, was compelled by his duty to take action. The community that had once embraced Dave with open arms now viewed him with a mixture of pity and disillusionment. As he faced the collapse of his American dream, Dave stood at a profound crossroads. The path before him forked sharply towards redemption or deeper deceit, a choice that was his alone to make. In this pivotal moment, Dave understood a fundamental truth. Though he could flee from the circumstances of his past, he could not outrun the essence of who he was. The realization dawned on him that true change would require not just a new place or a new name, but a transformation from within. After his true identity shattered the fragile life he had begun to build, Dave Martins found himself at a pivotal crossroads, with limited legal options remaining, and driven by a longing to recapture the fleeting comfort he had once tasted. Dave delved into the city's shadowy underbelly. It was in this murky world that he began to devise a new scheme, one that demanded finesse, charm, and a profound grasp of human psychology. Dave's plan was both simple and daring. He would adopt the persona of an affluent hotel guest, capitalizing on the hospitality industry's dedication to customer service and discretion. He chose upscale hotels as his hunting grounds, where the constant flux of guests and their temporary stays provided the perfect camouflage for his deceptions. Adorned in meticulously selected outfits that screamed luxury and confidence, Dave began to frequent these lavish establishments. He seamlessly blended in, occasionally engaging in light conversation with the staff to cement his presence as a benign, familiar face. His cultivated charm and feigned affluence rendered him nearly invisible to suspicion. The art of his deception was akin to a meticulously choreographed dance. Dave would eavesdrop and subtly gather the names and room numbers of legitimate guests, sometimes by casually observing luggage tags. Armed with this information, he would approach the front desk during peak times or shift changes. With a composed air and a story about a misplaced room key, he manipulated the staff's natural aversion to inconveniencing a guest. Once granted access to a room, Dave acted swiftly, aware of the limited time before the true guests returned. He would quickly secure valuables, wallets, watches, jewelry, and cash. On occasion he boldly contacted the hotel's security, claiming he had forgotten the safe combination, further exploiting their service ethos to access secured treasures. In one particularly tense moment, the rightful guests entered the room just as Dave was sifting through their possessions. With a quick apologetic smile and a hastily improvised excuse of mistaking the room for his own, he diffused the situation, leaving the guests bewildered but not suspicious. Night after night, across numerous hotels, Dave refined his fraudulent persona. However, with every successful heist, the stakes escalated. While he accumulated wealth and skillfully dodged capture, the web of lies he wove became increasingly constricting. As Dave perfected his deceptive arts, the distinction between his true self and his constructed identities began to fade. Each successful scam distanced him further from the desperate boy who had once hidden in a plane's wheel, yet simultaneously drove him closer to an edge from which retreat seemed impossible. His life, built on layers of deceit, hung precariously in the balance, a stark reminder of the perilous path he had chosen. On a humid evening in Miami, Dave Martins' precarious world finally unraveled. As the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists in the grandiose lobby of a hotel he had defrauded days earlier, it seemed as though his tumultuous run had reached its inevitable conclusion. Yet defiance coursed through Dave's veins even as he sat under the harsh glare of the fluorescent lights in the police station's interrogation room. His mind, ever active and plotting, wasn't ready to surrender. Each arrest, while a setback, had schooled him in the art of survival. His dread of a life confined by prison bars was dwarfed only by his fear of returning to a mundane, impoverished existence, pushing him to gamble everything for freedom again and again. Dave's initial escape was as audacious as it was theatrical. During a routine transfer, he exploited a moment of inattention from a rookie guard, convincing him of a fictitious medical ailment to loosen his restraints. As soon as the van doors opened for a routine inspection, Dave made his move, vanishing into the urban maze before the alarm could even be raised. With each capture, Dave's cunning only deepened. He meticulously studied the patterns of law enforcement and exploited systemic weaknesses. His escapes transcended physical liberation. They were masterful psychological maneuvers that played on the oversights and errors of those around him. Experts in criminal psychology might say that individuals like Dave who escape repeatedly from custody build a unique resilience to fear. They are driven by the rush of adrenaline and the allure of the chase, which fuels their relentless need to evade capture, regardless of the risks involved. In a particularly close call, Dave nearly found himself back in cuffs at a state line checkpoint, completely cornered and seemingly out of options. He adopted a stolen identity and spun a tale so compelling that it deceived the authorities and garnered enough sympathy to earn him a supervised but lenient release, which he promptly used to disappear once more. Now, as Dave sits alone in the flickering shadows of a makeshift hideout, he reflects on his circuitous path. The exhilaration of past escapes has faded, leaving behind a bitter realization that each flight from capture could be his last. Yet the thought of relinquishing the opulent lifestyle he has tasted drives him onward, perpetually one step ahead of the haunting specters of his past. The relentless cycle of capture and escape not only underscores Dave's resourcefulness and desperation, but also begs the question, how long can one man continue to outrun the consequences of his actions? As we delve deeper into the enigmatic life of Dave Martins, we uncover the complexities of a man whose ability to elude capture is as formidable as his shadowy existence is elusive. As Dave Martins's infamy spread, the scale of his schemes expanded dramatically. His ventures stretched across continents, weaving a complex web of deceit from the bustling streets of London to the glamorous hotels of Dubai, the elegant avenues of Paris, and the neon-lit districts of Tokyo. Each location presented new opportunities, and Dave meticulously tailored his cons to exploit local customs and security vulnerabilities. In London, Dave elevated his hotel scams to an art form, capitalizing on the peak tourist seasons. Masquerading as a polished businessman, he became a regular face in luxury hotels, skillfully duplicating room keys and circumventing high-tech security systems to plunder valuables from unsuspecting guests. One victim recounted the shock of the theft. "I returned to my room to find my laptop, watch, and thousands in cash gone. There were no signs of forced entry. It was as if a ghost had swept through. I felt utterly violated, stunned that such a breach could occur in such a reputable establishment." In the luminous city of Paris, Dave's command of French allowed him to impersonate high-profile hotel guests with ease. He slipped in and out of rooms during the bustling evening hours, his presence as fleeting as the echo of his footsteps on plush carpets. A law enforcement officer expressed frustration with Dave's elusive nature. Martins was a master of disguise and manipulation. He left minimal evidence, and by the time we connected the dots, he had already moved on to his next target. His methodical operations have been a wake-up call, highlighting the need for stronger international cooperation to track such elusive criminals. From the towering skyscrapers of Dubai to the vibrant markets of Tokyo, Dave leveraged the interconnectedness of the globalized world. His schemes grew increasingly sophisticated, utilizing advanced technology to forge documents and craft new identities, always remaining a ghostly step ahead of pursuing authorities. A security expert highlighted the broader impact of Dave's crimes. Dave Martins compelled the entire hospitality industry to reassess their security protocols. His uncanny ability to blend in and exploit trust exposed significant vulnerabilities, even in the most secure environments. This has catalyzed a significant increase in the adoption of advanced digital security measures industry-wide. Despite the luxurious trappings and the adrenaline of the chase, Dave's life was marked by an inescapable loneliness. Each successful con, while enriching him, deepened his isolation. Trust became a luxury he could not afford, leaving him forever an outsider in the very world he manipulated so adeptly. Dave Martins's journey from a desperate stowaway, seeking a new beginning, to becoming a globe-trotting con artist is a compelling saga of cunning, adaptability, and survival. However, each successful scam also left a trail of emotional and financial wreckage, starkly reminding us of the profound human costs of his deception. As his story unfolds, it serves as a poignant reflection on the consequences of a life built on illusions and the shadows that linger long after the thrill of the chase has faded. Dave Martins, who once looked upon the grim landscapes of Colombia with a heart full of yearning, became a spectral figure dancing across the globe. His life, stitched together with grand thefts and audacious getaways, compels us to reflect on the scars etched upon his soul and the indelible marks he left on the cities he ghosted through. The repercussions of Dave's actions ripple outwards, touching more than just the immediate losses tallied up in police reports. His victims recount feelings of profound betrayal, their trust shattered and their sanctuaries violated. This breach of trust has led to a ripple effect, eroding confidence in places once deemed impervious to such deceit. In response, the hospitality industry, once rocked by his nerve, has been forced to overhaul their security measures, altering the guest experience across the globe in a bid to restore a shattered trust. A psychologist weighs in, outlining the deeper psychological impact. Victims of fraud often endure long-term distress, haunted by a sense of vulnerability within their own spaces. For Dave, the relentless masquerade and evasion likely foster a profound loneliness and an identity crisis, blurring the lines between his true self and the roles he adopts. Dave Martins donned countless disguises to orchestrate his schemes, yet beneath each mask there was a man who became progressively estranged from his true essence. What started as a tactic to survive morphed into a way of life, binding him to a cycle of deceit. This cycle, while offering the illusion of freedom, instead forged chains of bondage. His complex saga poses serious moral questions. Does extreme desperation excuse deceit? Is it justifiable to secure one's own survival at the expense of others' safety? These dilemmas prompt us to weigh the delicate balance between sympathy for one's circumstances and the imperative of holding them accountable for their actions. A criminologist adds, Dave's narrative compels us to face uncomfortable truths about our societal constructs. It underscores the disparities that can drive individuals toward desperate measures and challenges our justice systems to address these issues with both rectitude and compassion, preventing others from walking a similar path. As Dave Martins stands at a pivotal juncture, the world watches, pondering his next move. Will he continue to evade the repercussions of his past deeds, or will he confront them head-on, stepping into the accountability he has long evaded? His story serves as a stark illustration of the complexities that weave through human motivations, highlighting our ongoing struggle with justice and the pursuit of redemption. In the shadows of his tumultuous journey, we find a reflection of our broader societal challenges and the perpetual quest to balance justice with mercy. The tale of Dave Martins, once a boy from Colombia, now a man of many masks, leaves us hovering between admiration for his ingenuity and dismay at his deception. As we reach the end of our journey through his life, one question remains unanswered. Where is Dave Martins now? Before we delve into that mystery, if you found yourself captivated by Dave's complex story, consider subscribing to this channel. Click that like button if you enjoyed our exploration today, share this video to invite others into this intriguing conversation, and don't forget to turn on notifications. That way you'll always be in the loop when we uncover more stories like Dave's, full of twists, turns, and truths about the human condition. Dave's last known activity traced back to a discreet art auction in Zurich, where a man resembling his description was seen bidding on an expensive painting. Since then, whispers of his presence have echoed from the cafes of Paris to the beaches of Thailand. Could he be living a life of luxury with the proceeds of his cons, or has he assumed a new identity in a quiet corner of the world, seeking a fresh start away from the shadows of his past misdeeds? Dave Martins' story weaves a complex tapestry of resilience, cunning, and moral ambiguity. It challenges us to reflect on the nature of desperation and the lengths one might go to escape a predestined life of hardship. His journey raises profound questions about the societal divides that drive individuals to choose paths of deceit over despair. As we ponder Dave's saga, we are reminded of the fine line between right and wrong, and how circumstances can blur these boundaries. His life compels us to think deeply about the essence of justice and redemption. Can a person truly reform, and what does society owe those who seek redemption after a lifetime of deceit? In the end, Dave Martins' story is not just a chronicle of crime and pursuit, it is a mirror reflecting our own societal values and the universal quest for a second chance. As you reflect on this tale, consider the shades of gray in the human spirit and how compassion and understanding can sometimes be the keys to unlocking true change. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. Stay tuned and keep pondering the mysteries of the human heart.